Call this meeting to order. Have you all had a chance to look at the minutes? They're quite brief.
I'm good with.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Minutes approved as presented. Thank you, Evelyn. Okay, next item, logic and accuracy certification for the May 9th election.
So this is the testing that we do for the election. We start out by testing to make sure that the voting equipment counts correctly, that the ballots pull up properly on the express votes, that the absentee ballots will count correctly. So we go through all of those steps, making sure that when a voter votes for candidate A, that it is actually showing a vote for candidate A and the machine is actually voting for candidate A. And so what you have is that certificate where we have done all the testing along with some of the proofs that we have done. So this is the actual certificate that will be filed with the county clerk's office.
Okay.
Along with the zero, we start out, and then each of the results. And this goes with it as well.
Oh, okay. Let's see, it's combined. Okay. These have all been properly reconciled and confirmed.
Yes, and one of the things I brought to show you that we do, is this is an added step we do at night, or after the election as well. Okay. We take the results tape from, so this is American Legion, so we take this results tape and we have our team vote a set amount of ballots. We know how those ballots were voted. We go through the results tape to show that there were 12 ballots processed in this machine and what the votes are. Then we enter those into our computer where we're counting and the results are printed, and we go through and make sure that those all match this. So it's very thorough testing because this is part of our election certification to make sure that the tapes actually are accurately entered into the computer and when we certify. So we include all of that within our testing as well. And so that's what all of this is as well.
Okay. All right. You guys go ahead and look at those. Any questions?
We're gonna be,
Max, you can go ahead and sign that after you've looked at it, since it's on your side of the table. I mean, I'm assuming you're going to sign it and not find something, yes, something's wrong. Okay.
We also did the additional step for this election that will be required of us in 2024, where we actually did send the ballot proofs to the candidates as well for them to see how their names would appear on the ballot.
Good.
So that will be an additional step, of course, going forward that we do, but we went ahead and just followed.
Work through the process.
Work through the process
Good.
for this election as
Good.
well. We did send that to the
Always good
candidates.
to be ahead of the game on that. Okay, poll worker notice for the May 9th election.
So the poll worker notice includes all of the poll workers who would be eligible to work for this election. We've gone ahead and included all of the poll workers who worked in the 2022 general election because we are having to borrow poll workers from other polling sites to
Right.
make sure we have enough poll workers for election day. Now,
Okay.
those that are working will attend training, and we've already held one training April 4th and 5th. We'll hold a secondary training the 25th and the 26th for any additional poll workers that would be working.
Okay. Does it matter if there's a duplicate?
No, we can just,
Okay.
yeah, we can just do that
That's the
out.
only one I noticed, but
Yeah.
I wasn't really looking, but there it is.
Yeah.
Okay. This goes in the newspaper.
So this does not go in the newspaper. What happens with this list is it is posted in the county clerk's office.
Oh, okay.
And any of the public who would have an objection to a poll worker has 7 days to make that objection in writing. It will be posted in the clerk's office next Monday.
Okay.
What goes in the paper is what's called, is the notice of election.
Mhm.
And that information is included in the notice of election, which is that top information on there.
Yeah, okay.
So that just lists everyone who might canvass, work with us election night, any new poll workers that we have as well.
Okay.
And right now, we don't have any poll workers that are related to a candidate or anything like that. That's on there.
That you know could possibly be an issue
Would
with
be
somebody.
an objection to
Okay.
someone.
Okay. It's a lot of people.
It is.
Okay, so now, is that going to be on the website too?
We don't post this
Okay.
on the website with all of the names on it.
Yeah.
It will be in the county clerk's office.
Okay.
But when it is posted is on the website.
Okay,
So that is part of the information that I do have posted
all right,
on our website.
good. Okay, next item, Election Commission Office. I turn it over to you.
So, as you all know, the first floor of the courthouse flooded Christmas Eve. And so in the process of reconfiguring the first floor of the courthouse, they have asked if we to relocate our offices out of the courthouse. The IT department is basically stacked on top of one another, and space is a premium here at the courthouse for all offices in particular. So they are planning on moving us to the road department, which is in the south complex. We would be across from our warehouse, our election commission warehouse, and we would occupy 4 offices inside of the road department building, which is also houses the planning department as well. And so I've got just a map of the building or the interior of it. It does have a secure door entrance, which means that you have to be buzzed in. You can't walk in. You have to have a card, or you have to be buzzed in. We would be in those first 4 offices.
In the yellow?
In the yellow
Okay,
would be where we would be at. It does include a secure room inside there for us to store ballots after the election until we have certified the election.
is that the red part?
That's the red part.
Okay.
And then there is a conference room down there as well where the Election Commission could hold some meetings. We'd be able to live stream from there as well. One of the suggestions had been that we could also count in the same building in the area that you see as the pink.
Mhm.
And I've got pictures of what it is. Basically, it's the break room for that building. But I don't believe it is big enough for us to count a primary or general election, or even this size election that we have with 26 sites. And it is rather loud in there. There's an ice maker machine, which hums all the time. And so I feel like that would be an issue as well. So for counting purposes, we would need to either count here in the quorum courtroom, or we would need to possibly count over at the sheriff's annex, which was where we did for the emergency when the courthouse didn't have any power. There were some advantages to counting over at the sheriff's annex in
size.
Right.
We had so much more space there to be able to spread out, and to do that, but we would have to coordinate for live streaming and those different types of things as well.
Is this the secure door entrance?
This would, no,
For
this
the
is for the break
Conference
room.
room? Or,
This
oh,
would
it's
be
not
the
secure.
public
Okay.
entrance. If we were to count there,
Yeah.
Be that.
that
Okay,
would be
yes,
that
mhm.
would be the public entrance.
Are you seeing that, Max?
Public counting area door,
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the snack, the break room.
is that a public entrance all the time?
No, it would only be a public entrance.
Where's the main, you know,
If you,
business hours public entrance?
if you see the yellow, there's a green at the front where it says secure door entrance. That
Okay.
little green right there is the main entrance.
There's parking right here,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
Where it says
So
front
the
of
door's
building.
always locked, but there's somebody there during business hours to let people
Yes,
in.
they have a receptionist there that buzzes people in, or if you have a fob to get in.
Okay.
So,
Man, how long has the election commission been at the courthouse?
since I've been
Forever,
here,
forever.
I would say, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably since the election commissions came about in Arkansas.
I would say
right?
so, yeah.
What year was that?
I mean, 1836.
I just remember when, what was his name? The one guy who had a dungeon down there.
Oh, Steve Gazar.
No,
Or
before,
Becky.
Bucky.
Yes.
Yes, Bucky Crouch
Yes.
was down there.
So we have been in our little area since I've been here and even before then.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we've been in various stages of it before. Like at one point we were just in the front two offices,
Oh, yeah.
and we lost the back office when they were doing the parking deck.
Mhm.
At one point we stored half of our equipment in the old jail, and our ballot boxes had to be
Oh, man.
power washed before we could use
Oh,
them because
man.
they had bugs and spiders and stuff in them. We used to have to do LNA and poll worker training in the hallways down there because we stored our equipment in the
Yeah.
mechanical rooms. So there's been variations, but we have always been here. And then, of course, they built us the South Campus building to house all of our equipment. But it is not big enough for us to have our offices there.
Or secure enough, right?
Or secure enough in the sense that, of what we're doing, like,
Yeah.
so this would give us, 3 really good sized offices, and then, a ballot secure room basically for ballots, until we've certified the election. The process would be counting. Where would we count, which location would we count, and then, of course, the transportation of the voting equipment and the ballots after the election.
Yeah.
Because typically now when they come into the courthouse, they don't leave the courthouse until we've certified the election. But this new scenario would be they would come to where we would count, and then they would be moved to another location after we count. Into the secure room until we've certified everything. And so it would just involve us laying out new procedures on accounting for those ballot boxes, making sure that everything is properly delivered back into our offices. Absentees, that's a different thing as well. We've always counted absentees, here in the courthouse because the clerk's office is right here. So anytime there's a question with an absentee or we're missing an application, the clerk's office is right here. And so my plan would be to still want to count absentees in the courthouse in room 115, but secure those ballots until election night in the clerk's office in like a secure, and I've got pictures of it here as well, of the items we would need to move forward with this. But basically in a cage, basically, we would lock those ballots up, and then they would be located in the clerk's office when we're not
That's
canvassing
those
them.
rolling cages.
That's those rolling cages, yes.
So we would be storing ballots in multiple locations instead of one secure location like we currently do between the election process starting and certification.
So for absentees, they would be here at the courthouse until we finished canvassing, and then they would move with us to whatever location we count at, whether it's here in the courtroom or it is in the sheriff's annex. And those absentee ballots are not opened in the sense that we've only processed the paperwork. We
Oh,
wouldn't have
yeah,
gotten
that's
into the ballot only envelope yet. So basically, they're still being stored in the ballot boxes in that secure container, basically. So, and we would have to, but you are right, we would have to be accounting for those ballot boxes when we move those to where we count, which we currently do in the sense that when our canvassing team finishes up in like room 115, we put those ballots and then we move them down into our office. So this would be that same type of procedure, except for actually moving them to
Physical, yeah.
different location.
I guess one big issue I see with it is, in addition to breaking almost 200 years of precedent for the election commission being in the county courthouse, it also creates an additional burden for voters and for members of the public to stop by an election commission office and talk to an election commission staff person about the election process and ask questions about the election process. And I point out that this is during a time when there's increased focus on the transparency of elections, right? More people are paying attention to the process, more people are looking at the process and asking questions about it, and moving all election commission offices down to the road department to a locked, secure access door full-time just creates additional burdens for people who have been used to stopping by the courthouse to ask questions about the election for a very long time, decades and decades, as long as anybody's been alive. So that's an issue that I see with it. You know, the county clerk is right upstairs. We work with the county clerk on the election process with absentee ballots. You know, that's going to create additional challenges to be on the same page with the county clerk and to work through the absentee vote counting process. Those are some of the problems I see with it. How does this work? You know, it's the courthouse. Is this just the county judge's decision? County judge says you've got to move down there and that's basically it? I mean, how did this kind of come about? Is there a, you know, department kind of, you know, building coordinator or something who makes these decisions? Is there any type of process, or is there just no process?
I haven't talked through that with anybody but Jennifer, but I know that the courthouse is bursting at the seams, and you mentioned IT. And I think the idea here is, since they're going to have, well, they've already obviously done some demolition downstairs due to the flood, that now putting it back together is the sensible time to reconfigure. And I don't know all the decisions that have been made with that, and I don't think you do either.
No, we were visited in our office by the chief of staff about this location at the road department. So we visited the location at the road department. I have, talked about the concerns about the logistics and, and making sure that everything is accounting wise and live streaming and the meetings and all of that. And then Friday, I spoke with the chief of staff again, and this is when he kind of gave me this little blueprint. I mean, we wrote the notes on it of where our offices would be. Whether there is a process to, I don't know.
Appeal
it or, visit with the chief of staff or visit with the county judge in regards to this. But this was what was presented to me.
Yeah.
And so.
Right.
Was it presented as a decision already made, or as something that there is an option that is just being considered?
The way my understanding was, there were several options that they were considering, but my takeaway from it was that this was the option that they were considering.
Yeah.
Was,
The preferred.
So,
Yeah.
so they had all their, they being.
I have not been privy to anything other than the visit to the road department and then this information that I'm giving you right now. That is the only information that I have and the only
Yeah.
visits I have.
Yeah.
So then that's, I'm presenting it
Yeah.
to the commission, obviously for your, to-
Well, I don't know that there's a decision that we can make on it. I think you've offered some serious concerns, but my sense is that that decision is not in our hands.
Well, are there, does someone occupy these offices now?
So Dwight does, who is over buildings and grounds, but, so I was like, I'm kicking Dwight out of his office. My understanding is that he actually, they would move the front two offices would be moved to another location. Where that is, I don't know. The back offices, there's no one occupying those at this time. But the one set of offices is not big enough for my staff and what we do.
Right,
You
right.
lost me in some of that
Okay,
conversation.
so the front two offices that you see,
These
Right
two
here.
right
these
here.
two, there is currently, yes, staff there.
It would be
Okay.
these two.
The,
Yeah.
the next one where the secure room is, there's
This one.
nothing in those offices now except just a bunch of old furniture.
So that's, you say offices, that's just one office? That's
Yeah.
just one
Yeah.
room, okay.
And
That's
so,
where my confusion was.
sorry. This little one, at some point, I think the old chief of staff occupied for a little bit, cause it is kind of like where the red line is. I think someone occupied that as an office at one point.
But that's potentially a secure,
It is, because it only it would be able to, lock that door. There's no other access to it, so it would always be able to be kept secure.
What are the streaming capabilities in the road department building? For like meetings, for absentee ballot counting? I mean, we
It's
use
in
one
here.
courtroom and the streaming
Right.
here, and then we've used 115 and the streaming down there.
So currently they have a conference room there that already has like
Pink outline.
the TVs in it, so we would just have to coordinate with the planning department. I don't think, they don't use the conference room very much, but it would be similar to what we do in room 115, where I set it up like
Okay.
I
yeah.
used to in room 115. Streaming in the
Counting room?
counting room, that pink area is non-existent at this moment. So that would be something that would have to be implemented. And then, of course, if we were to count election night, here we have this streaming. Absentees, my preferred counting place for the absentees is room 115.
So where would you, under this plan, where would you be proposing counting ballots?
So, and that's, if you'll look at the calendar, I've presented its election planner. It says 2023, 2024. So we're talking the March 5th, 2024 primary. So, the first meeting the election commission had would be the ballot draw. That would need to be here in the quorum courtroom. Any other meetings that we would have could potentially be down in, at that office, or we could continue to meet in room 115. Right now, room 115 is not, obviously not available. One of the options that they did offer us, or they did talk to us about, was moving our offices into room 115.
Oh, yeah.
But then room 115 is lost as a counting room. We wouldn't have a
And
place
it's
to count
not
absentee
adequate.
ballots, because the quorum courtroom is used at that time for early vote. So we would be back trying to find another space. We counted in the assessor's office in 2022, but that place was not really
Right,
ideal for
right.
us to count for the presidential year. That's what concerns me is that space for the to count absentee ballots.
115, if you moved into 115.
If our offices were in room 115, that would be condensing all three of my offices.
Not
that-
sufficient space.
No, not at all. No, not especially for the storage of the materials
right.
after the election as well.
So the answer, if I make sure I understand the answer is, counting would be done either in 115 here or in the quorum courtroom,
Yes, election night, like we have
depending on what
traditionally.
night it is.
Yes, like we have traditionally done. The sheriff's annex is a possibility for us as well. I don't know, how the commission feels about that, but we would need to be in the, one place. I mean,
Yeah.
so we could keep it here in the quorum courtroom, and we would absentee canvassing ballots in room 115, once that is actually open. Absentee election day counting, I have to be determined. That would need to be, like I said, the quorum courtroom or the sheriff's annex. Provisional ballot review, that's where we meet after the election, to go over the provisional ballots. The provisional ballot hearing, I would prefer that we would to meet here in the quorum courtroom, because it is a public meeting, the public's used to coming to this building. And then certification, that would need to be determined. It could be that the commission decides to hold all of our meetings here in the quorum courtroom, rather than trying to hold them down at the road department building, for consistency's sake, for the public and, for the voters.
Is there a reason not to do that? I mean, the quorum courtroom is available to us most of the time during the regular business hours because it's used by the quorum.
We have to
court at
reserve it.
night.
Right, there's not a reason for us to not, we would just have to transport the different things here. And so it would just be a matter of coordination, because one of the things that we would also have to coordinate with as well is during the certification process, we would have to keep a DS-200 up here, a couple of DS-200s up
Right.
here, because we still have to count the provisional ballots and count the absentee ballots as well. So a lot of this will boil down to, coordinating, bringing everything up here, making sure that we have everything we need before we have meetings, and then it doesn't make sense to take the DS-200 back and forth.
Right.
We just have to coordinate with the county clerk's office about storing some of those things there until we are officially certified for the election.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I feel like we've had a meeting up here and I've asked for somebody's asked for something, and you guys have run down to the office
Right,
and gotten it,
right,
right?
yes, yes.
That happens all the time. I think it's setting up, potential problems with elections moving forward because of the significant additional logistical burdens that are gonna be placed on the election process. County ballots, working with the county clerk. And previously, as mentioned, and you sort of addressed this, Jennifer, but the public's access to elections and the election process and the election commission. The public's used to stopping by the courthouse to ask about the election process, to come to these meetings.
We
And
appreciate
we-
y'all being here.
We could still, have the meetings up here, but all of the staff members are gonna have to come up here, have all the equipment, all the documents up here. You can't just run downstairs to an office. Like you mentioned, you have to store an election DS-200, ballot counting machine up here.
At least one.
Without an office,
Yeah.
coordinate with, the county clerk or something to be able to use her office, but just to keep that one piece of equipment in somebody else's office that you don't necessarily have a key to. The whole thing just creates a whole host of logistics issues that are not currently present in the election process, and I feel like it's gonna put them on top of additional legislation that's come out this year that creates additional requirements in the election process, right?
Yeah.
So, at a time when elections are becoming more complex, more scrutinized, we are, with a move like this, setting up potential problems with elections just because of the logistics involved. So, that's my take on it. I don't know what the next process is here, but, I see a whole lot of problems with it. I understand space is a premium at the courthouse, but again, I think for the members of the public, it's important to have the election commission, a couple of the offices up here at the courthouse, and for the integrity of the election process, rather than transporting ballots between multiple places and personnel between multiple places, keeping ballots secure in one location through the whole process. We have a great system right now.
The whole purpose of this is to make room for, we're talking about the courthouse being strained, but we're really only making room for the IT group. Is that right?
That's my understanding, is that they would be, part of their staff would then be in our offices, where our offices currently are.
I think as part of this discussion, it's important for us to acknowledge to the public that there are numerous counties in the state that have separate election buildings. Benton,
Sebastian, Pulaski,
They're not in the courthouse.
Crawford,
they're outside the courthouse.
they're outside the courthouse. And so they don't have offices in with their county clerk. So they do, but they have, the ability to count at their location.
Everything is
In one
enclosed.
Right,
Yes.
and that's,
And
that's
secure.
something
Yeah,
definitely, to address that maybe the county, to look for a space where we can do everything in the one location.
If the election commission's gonna be in a separate building, that's fine, but we should be able to do everything in that
Yeah.
building and have ballots securely kept in that building during the entire process.
Well, that's
when the
my
election
concern,
starts.
is when you start toting things here, there, and everywhere,
Yep.
you're eventually going to drop the ball on something, and we don't need that kind of mistake in our process.
Agreed.
And this may just be a temporary solution, that maybe there's other solutions.
Would it be appropriate, Madam Chairman, for us to invite the chief of staff to come and,
I wish I had thought of it.
is he in the building?
I think he might be.
He may, just 117 for 1,700. Now, like I said, this is, when they looked at this with me and I spoke with the chief of staff, I wanted to present to the commission this possibility that this, that this would be happening or could be happening. They may come up with another solution, but at this point, it doesn't look like there's another solution. So my goal in presenting this to the commission was to, to kind of lay out what the plan would be.
I would like to, let me just interject if I can. Where I am right now is I thought this was a done deal, and now it sounds like that it may not be. And I just I'd like for the chief to tell us. Do we need to just sit back and be discussing how we're gonna do this? Or do we need to be discussing whether or not we're gonna do this?
I mean, I think the
Is
latter.
that fair?
It's totally fair, Jim, but I think we need to discuss the latter. We need to discuss the problems and the concerns that we have and make sure everybody's fully
On the
aware
same
of-
page, yeah.
of these issues,
Well,
right? Before, wherever it is in any process, we need to raise the issues because, because they are concerns that we have.
Right. Well, I mean, this is, we need to be flexible. But if it's a question of flexibility over security and efficiency, there's going to be a rub there. And I don't want it to seem as if we are not willing to flex for the best of the county, but we need to be able to be confident, no matter where we are. If we're in a closet in there, Jennifer's going to pull this off. Every election is going to work, but there's always the potential that there's going to be, when you're fragmented in several offices, there is that potential to have something go wrong. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, you need to streamline operations. You don't need to create additional
Right,
logistical
right.
complexities.
And again, as more regulation comes down from the state that requires other procedures to be done, then that's going to add to the overall smoothness of it. I'm not getting a text. Yeah, have him come down.
And like I said, giving this information to the commission,
Right.
I never want, to just, I feel like the commission needs to be fully involved and aware of the potentials of this. And so as soon as this was presented to me last week, and then I, spoke with the chief of staff, I knew we had this meeting for us to discuss this for the commission, to review it as well. Even though, I don't know, where we stand in the sense that, like you said, I don't,
Is it inevitable?
right, that we're moving, so I don't.
Yeah, well,
That's what we need to find out from the chief, I think, is, is this something that we're gonna have to work out? It's gotta be done. If so, then we need to embrace it and be part of the team, Washington County officials, and make sure that we get what we need to be able to do it efficiently and accurately and fairly.
Yeah.
So I think it's, to me, right now, the only thing I need to know before we, work on going in one direction is there any,
alternative.
alternative?
Yeah.
And that's where I think we need to get an answer.
And like I said, one of the alternatives presented was to move us all into room 115.
But that's not a doable thing.
The problem with moving us all into room 115, then room 115 is lost as a
Exactly.
meeting.
I mean, it's lost right now, though.
Yeah, that's
We
true.
haven't used it in 6 months,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It had just set up, but for some reason not available, so
Oh,
we don't
Oh,
want to
okay.
set
What
up
if-
a future event.
Okay.
I mean, is that a feasible option at all? I understand that's a way smaller space than we have currently, but is that an option?
I mean,
you didn't
Commis-
actually cover that as an option other than in
So-
general
Or keeping
terms,
one of
right?
the 3 offices and that room, or something along those lines.
Mm.
I don't know, you may not know the answers, I'm just asking.
So-
the
Can I
questions.
say something about that?
Yeah.
That Lance did say that the room 115 is 2/3 the size of the space we already have now, and we would have to put a secure room in there, which would minimize
Oh,
the
right.
space even more.
Oh, yeah, you'd have to divide the room,
Right.
Right.
you have to make it a secure room to lock up.
Well, I certainly hope they discuss the possibility of splitting IT up and putting part of them in 115.
Yeah, and then,
Or, yeah, sure, or down in the road department.
Yeah.
Is there a reason IT can't move down there? Who knows?
I don't have
That
any
would
idea.
probably be a major equipment and electronics equipment move, seems to me, but anyway.
Yeah.
Assuming they have servers and stuff down there.
Yeah, yeah.
so-
Well, I think they probably do, but,
yeah, I would think so, because the planning department is down
right,
there.
right.
And so, although I do know that when the planning department meets here, and they bring all
Right.
their
Yes.
things here for their planning department meetings. So
Did they give us a date of when this is gonna occur?
I asked not till after May 9th, please, just because we need to finish the election. Part of it all has to do too, when they get the insurance money, to be able to start.
To rebuild.
Any type of rebuild.
Mhm.
When is our next meeting?
So we don't have a meeting scheduled until May 9th. But I did want to, with this discussion and with the election commission, kind of reviewing all of this, it sounded like we need to have a meeting
Yeah.
with the judge or with the chief of staff and just kind of go over all of these concerns
I
with
think that's
them.
a fair thing for us to do. Do we need to set that up as a election commission meeting and
Yeah.
invite
It-
them to come, or one of them to come?
Yeah, it would need to be, if for all 3 commissioners to be
Mhm.
here, it would need to be an election commission
Yeah.
meeting, with them here.
We don't wanna be, we're not intending to be, I don't think, confrontational.
Or
We just-
uncooperative.
Or uncooperative, but we want to know as much of the story as we can, and see if we can figure out the best way to do what's needed.
And raise these concerns that make this a difficult move in part, under, as you've mentioned, added scrutiny that will continue in the foreseeable
And look,
future.
you have to set up with whether you're in business, whether you're in government, whether you're in some other organization, you have to set up efficient processes, right?
Here's the judge.
I'm always about
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
Yep.
Welcome.
Well.
Thank you for coming.
I'm on call day.
Well,
Are you?
I hope you can sit for a while.
Okay.
We are discussing the potential move and our concerns about this move and the logistics of it. And I wonder if you could enlighten us.
Well, I don't know that we have, I don't know if this is on.
It's
It
on,
is.
it's green.
Red's on.
Oh, the other ones are green. I don't know. Is it?
No.
Should say like mic 20, you have to highlight it and then put mic on at the bottom. There should be a button for mic on.
Is it Mike 20?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I know nothing. Oh, is that right?
Oh, there it goes.
Just hit the mic on button.
Oh, okay,
Highlight it when you put the mic on.
okay.
I can certainly answer probably more globally than specifically, since this is such a fluid situation, if you will, in terms of the details. But what it essentially does is coincides with our work of putting back the first floor back together after our flood. And so we, of course, have been working with the insurance agency to get that worked out, to get those funds, to get that put back together. And so I would see that work happening in the next month or so. I think what we're dealing with in the county is an extreme space issue, which you guys probably appreciate just from your work also, is we're running out of space. And so we're trying to get creative about where we're trying to put people and what spaces that we can rethink and what spaces that we can utilize more efficiently to their best use. And so I think the one thing that we were looking at when we started debating some of this with the election commission is not so much that we want to displace the election commission, but where can we get the election commission where we can see them being more permanent? Because I feel like the space that they're in now will continually be something that people will eyeball, if you will, to
take over and
yeah.
absorb. Yeah.
And so I appreciate Director Price being willing to work with us. And so I think what we've come up with is a plan to house them down at the what is essentially the road department / buildings and grounds / planning department building at the South Campus there, with a couple offices that we have. In the meantime, with hopefully the long-term goal, when we get done with this, I think you've heard that we're building an emergency operations center down on South Campus located next to the road department. And then our hopes are long-term is that the election commission would have some offices in there. One of the things that Director Price has mentioned to us is, one, security of the office space that she needs to use, and then secondly is she likes to have an office, or not an office, a space that can accommodate several people during election times for ballot counting. And so we see that building down there, the Emergency Operations Center, having those types of capabilities for the long term moving forward.
Is that building approved? Is it going to be under construction, or is it still just in the planning phase?
It's in the planning phases. What we're doing, we have an ordinance on the agenda for Thursday night to start the design and architectural work of that, to get that very much kind of the budget laid out, the actual floor plan. I mean, we have very global ideas for what the size of that building we're looking at, but nothing in detail yet is what I'm saying. So that's I see this as all high points aside from the problem of moving people around, is that we will have some input in that about how we want those offices to look. And now knowing that we need to accommodate the election commission along with our emergency operations center, I think that's good. That building offers a lot of convenience for you guys, I think. Of course, I'm trying to sell it, but I think if you remember, was it last spring, we had the power failure at the courthouse during election night? Wasn't that like on election day, or was it was on election day? And so all that being said, the Emergency Operations Center, by its very nature, is a building that's meant to be standalone, if you will, in terms of if the power goes out, it's going to have a robust generator there to have power backup, communications, all that kind of stuff. And so kind of maybe by accident, it just seems like it might be a good fit to have those two operations together, just because of the critical nature that they see.
Yeah, so Judge, I appreciate all that, and the idea of a standalone building, secure space, for the elections, all our processes to be conducted, secure ballots, all that. It's not an idea that we're opposed to at all. We get it about the flexibility. The courthouse is crowded, but the election commission has been in the county courthouse for about 200 years, since Arkansas became a state, and members of the public are used to being able to come up here and stop by the commission office and ask questions of the commission and learn how the election process is conducted. So I guess one concern I have is just the transparency of the election process and keeping some of the election commission processes in the courthouse. I mean, we've been up here, we keep ballots from the very beginning of the election process secure in our office down there, and then we count them up here, and only after the whole process is done do we move the ballots. And under this plan, we'd have to be transporting the ballots a few different times and places. We'd be transporting personnel up here to try to have meetings up here. It doesn't look like there's a big enough space in the road department to have meetings and to count the ballots on election night. concerns I have are, one, just access by members of the public to the election commission and the office and all of that. And then two, it's the logistics involved. And, we've got an awesome team here. Jennifer is great, but if somebody else was in that role, I wouldn't have that same confidence.
That's a good point.
It's because the process is getting more complicated in terms of the logistics, right? And more logistics involved with moving ballots around, working with the county clerk who we work with on absentee ballots. I mean, you're setting up potential failures in the election process with increased logistics, right? So I think that's a concern I have about this plan. Maybe not so a longer-term plan where we have a standalone whole facility. Those are the few of the issues that I see.
Yeah, I think that, first of all, any kind of change is going to be, I think, difficult, and we see that all around the county. So I appreciate that. I want you
And-
guys to know that I appreciate
And
that.
coming up on 2024, which
for
will
sure.
be the biggest
Yes.
election of our lifetimes.
And I think also, kind of the way I look at it is by accident, maybe we had a triage there about how we counted votes that time when the courthouse went down. I know that Director Price has said that the annex down at the Sheriff's Department for that ballot counting, you're correct. The road department building, when we analyzed that, and I think Director Price had a lot of input on that, does not have a room or facility that we consider robust enough to count votes. But that the annex is right down there with that, and I think from what I'm hearing, I had not had this personal conversation with Director Price, but that room would accommodate that counting just like it did when the courthouse went down. So, I mean, this is not something that I want the entire commission to get, this is not something that we take lightly, for sure. And we're going to coordinate with Director Price as much as we can to increase security. I think back to your concerns about the public access and things like that. That's just going to take some time, I think, in educating the public and putting some stuff out there publicly to let them know that the Election Commission has a permanent house on the South Campus. And I think also what I would draw your attention to is just prospectively, South Campus is going to be a much more utilized destination down there for the county in terms of if we grow, how we grow. It only makes sense that we start moving down the South Campus.
I mean, even if we move down to the South Campus, I'm not sure we're not going to still be counting ballots up here though on election night. Because again, it's members of the public coming up here and seeing the election process and seeing in person at the county courthouse us counting the ballots. There's increased transparency on elections now. There's increased legal and burdens we have to meet that the state legislature just passed, and we are trying to increase transparency all the time. Moving all operations down to the South Campus where the public has never been before and doesn't know elections occur and the election processes occur, it doesn't benefit transparency, right? It doesn't benefit the public's confidence in elections where we've been counting ballots up here. So I just think the optics of it aren't great,
Yeah.
at this point in time.
Well, and I think we can certainly accommodate ballot counting wherever Director Price thinks best. If she would still, I think you utilize this room quite a bit.
Yes.
If you would still like to use this on election days, I don't necessarily foresee that as being a problem. So, I mean, I think that's definitely in the works. The other reality that we face as a county is that we're going to have to make tough decisions in terms of change and growth, and that's just it. And the optics of it, while I do very much appreciate that, we're going to have to just be as open and transparent as we always are in educating the public. But these are the types of decisions that we're going to have to make in Washington County over the next 5 and 10 years. I mean, just our growth is just, we see it. I'm not just talking about external growth. I'm talking about internal growth. And while I really want to be very forthright in how we're framing this, our idea is not like, well, let's be haphazard with the Election Commission and move them around. We know what we're asking, but I want you to hear me. My ultimate goal is to get the Election Commission somewhere permanent with what I think is better resources.
So I would suggest, I appreciate that long-term goal. And look, we'd appreciate that long-term goal too, honestly. We've been flexible. I've been on the commission almost 10 years, and we've moved around offices. offices, we've met in different locations, you know, we've set up shop across the street, down in the sheriff's annex. That's all fine. I appreciate the premium that space is in the courthouse. But I would suggest that this being kind of a temporary fix, that you would reconsider this temporary fix. If we're talking about a permanent move down to a new emergency operations center down there, you know, that sounds like a good plan. We'd appreciate input in the process of exactly what we need, what type of ballot counting space, you know, all of those things that go into that, into consideration in planning that building, and it sounds like you're in the process right now. But this, as a temporary process, I'd ask you to reconsider it.
Well-
I'd ask you to reconsider, you know, allowing our current election to continue through 2024, and then with the goal of having a big permanent center down there in this building, emergency operations building.
Well, and I very much appreciate that. And my ask to you is to coordinate with us as the county judge's office to make sure we can get the resources to make you guys comfortable through the next election cycle. The reality I face is I have 4 IT personnel sitting in a broom closet. And it's just not conducive to the way we need to conduct business. So once again, I highlight to you guys that this is not a decision being taken lightly. This is a decision that we definitely want to coordinate with you guys on, but it's a decision that we find is absolutely critical as we move forward over the next couple of years in the county.
Well, let me just ask the question then, if I could, Judge Deakins, the decision, because we have to know which direction we're going. And so, this conversation has been great, but is the decision made, is it definite that we're making this temporary move?
Well, yes, I guess what I'm saying is we're carrying forward as this is going to happen. Now, I tell people all the time that, you know, the situation's always fluid. You know what I mean? And we definitely want to do what's best for you guys and what's best for the elections while balancing that with what's best for the county. And so I guess where, once again, my focus is, it's not so much if the decision's going to be made. It's how do we mitigate and make sure that the election commission's operating as functionally as we absolutely possibly can.
And I appreciate that. It's with that fluidity, again, I would just ask that you reconsider making us move into a temporary space through 2024. We can keep, you know, I get it with IT, room closet, again, we understand the space limitations. But, you know, changing kind of our logistics during the middle of the 2023-2024 cycle is going to create challenges for us. And, you know, with increased logistics becomes increased errors in processes. It doesn't matter if it's private business, government, any of it, right? So I would just ask you to reconsider the move now before this emergency operations building is built and we have a more permanent space.
Well, I'll always consider all the best things for sure, but I also point to you guys, and you guys know better than anybody, your cycle never stops. I mean, it's continuous. So, I mean, while I appreciate this next cycle being more difficult than the previous cycle, the reality of you guys is, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, is the cycle after that will be more difficult than the cycle that you're just about to go through. And so I have to balance that too with what we're trying to do. And maybe, so maybe the way I'm looking at it is this is an off year, if you will. This is a good time for us to move as a county versus, in my viewpoint, once again, I'll always take in your guys' variables and your inputs for sure. But once again, not a decision taken lightly, and we'll do whatever we can to mitigate all the issues that you guys see.
I'm just curious, and I know you have done your due diligence. Is there not any other place in the county that would be more, that would put us all together in a way and still be secure, but I'm concerned about the fragmentation. And I've been told there are other buildings that the county owns. Is there nothing?
No. I'm telling you, we are at a critical mass right now when it comes to just our office spacing.
Yeah.
something that I had a little bit of appreciation for while I was on the quorum court, but have gained a lot more appreciation of in the last 90 days of just about how stacked on top we are of each other. And so the answer to that is no.
Okay.
To my current knowledge right now, I mean,
Yeah.
we've tried to take, me and Chief Johnson have taken inventory of everything we have in the county, and so that's something that is kind of on our long-term goal list of we're going to have to do something if, because we're fragmented, our courts are fragmented. One of the this is not, one of the things we're securing 3 or 4 buildings to support court security standards that, ideally we would maybe secure one just from a fiscal standpoint, and so, that's just another thing but no, I find this to be the best solution. I know Chief Johnson's looked into this very heavily to be the best solution, and once again, the best solution for you as a commission long-term, in my mind, to get you guys kind of prioritized in that space down there when it's eventually finished.
Is there a reason IT can't move down there as a temporary move?
The IT requires a lot more space in terms of the physical officing space, and so that's why that team. Yeah, same difference. That team, and we only see that team probably growing over the next 3 to 5 years. That they require the square footage.
And 115 would not be adequate for their needs? I mean, to expand for their needs?
No.
Okay. Let me just get a commitment out of you.
Okay. I
And
don't
the
know if you'll get.
I know.
I'm willing
I
to
know.
listen.
I know.
I've
And
been
the-
very much warned about that as county judge.
And the commitment is this. In this, because what you're telling us is this move is, what, 95% sure?
Correct.
Okay. If we do well down there, and we can still do all of our operations and stuff, you're not gonna shuffle us off later and say, well, they don't need the space in that, what is it called? Emergency planning. I mean, we're gonna do as well as we can do in any space.
For sure.
And so, and we've put enough diligence in to make sure that if there are errors, that we find them quickly and deal with them. But, I don't want the notion to be that because we've done such a great job in a very limited space and moving things hither and yon, that you're gonna say, no, they're doing fine where they are.
That's a risk of government, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, it is.
No, listen, I want you to also hear me personally, and also in my capacity as county judge. I am a firm believer in the job that you guys have done. I'm talking about your whole team, the whole commission, all of your workers. You guys are one of the stellar, if not the stellar, election commission in the state. And so where I'm going with that is I want you to have somewhere of permanency. I think this new building is the place for you guys to be, just for some of the very other reasons I stated a while ago. And so, no, that's easy for me to make that commitment. I want you guys to have somewhere. Of course, Director Price is very much advocate of the work that you guys do and the space that she needs and the accommodations that she needs. And let me tell you, it's very difficult to argue with a person like herself that sees the results that you guys see in terms of, it's not questioning the success at all. And so, no, short-term growing pain will hopefully turn into somewhere where you guys can be there fruitful for many, many years.
Well, that would be good.
Once again, I know that this is a difficult ask to deal with this change, but all the internal conversations that we've had when we were analyzing all this space was that we want this to be a long-term benefit for the election commission and the elections in Washington County to have this space.
Yeah. Okay.
We do appreciate the long-term goal, but it's this temporary fix.
Correct.
That's the concern.
Mhm.
And it's the integrity and security of the ballots and the ballot counting process, and then the access by the public to the election commission and the election commission process. Those are our concerns. So the long-term goal, new building, new facilities, sounds great. We're all on the same page. It's just increasing the logistics here involved in the short-term fix that, again, could create problems in the election process.
Understood. Very much so. And Director Price has the ear of the judge's office. She has the ear of my chief of staff, and she has my ear to make sure that we're getting you guys the resources to mitigate anything in the short term. And that's another commitment I'll make to you.
I appreciate it.
Sounds like our, going forward, efforts and orders are to make this work.
We have our minds right now.
We will do
Yeah.
that.
Yes, and so, I mean, once again, this is early in this process. That's why I was saying I don't know I don't know that we've sat down yet with Director Price and had like a logistics conversation about how this moves forward and how we want to make sure we have the resources there. But of course, timing standpoint, she'll control that calendar because I know that you guys have some things going on right now very soon in terms of elections. And so it's not like we're going to come down next week and say, hey, let's pack this all up, move out. We very much want to accommodate what you guys have. And so we'll get with you and Commissioner, hopefully in the next few weeks, you'll see the plan and we can have input on the plan. That way we can all be a little bit more comfortable about the mitigation that we're taking. And it's not just something that, like I'm saying, we're not by any means gonna force the pack and the move all in one day next week or something like that. And that's a commitment I make to you, Director Price, that we'll work together to make sure the logistics make sense for everyone.
Okay. We thank you.
No problem.
We appreciate your being available. Any
Don't be
other?
a stranger.
All right, sure. I appreciate that. I'm gonna queue off, and we're always here. My office is here. Chief Johnson was out this morning, probably cracking the whip somewhere, or he would have been down here. But please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll answer any questions we can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. So, any questions on that?
I think we've got to move forward as if this is gonna happen.
As if it's 100%, not 95.
You did a admirable job of trying to get him to back off, but I just don't see it happening. I think they're pretty much got their decisions made.
IT is higher on the scale than we are.
If we get, if we get 50% down the road trying to make these things happen, the planning section, and something happens and they back off, that's fine.
Yeah,
That
that's
won't
right.
be a major issue. If we get 75% down the road and we've got stuff moved and things like that, then that
That
might
could be
become an issue
problematic,
at that
yeah.
But I don't think we need to wait, too long before we start making plans and moves in that direction, because we could get caught in a
Right.
bad position if we haven't done whatever we need to do to make sure we've considered all of the
Right.
implications of whatever might happen.
And Jennifer's been day and night thinking about all the various things that are going to be necessary for this.
Right, and I've started putting together a list. I know that there will be things added to the list of items needed, but definitely, we will need to coordinate with IT in regards to streaming. One of the other concepts I had as well, when we are counting and we're doing canvassing on election day, whether it's here, and that's one decision the commission, if we want to stick with the quorum court or the sheriff's annex, will be something for the commission. But we actually want to set up our office where we're counting, because one of the things when we're counting absentee ballots, that is such a scrutinized process, and that's the one area where
Right.
mistakes can
Yeah.
be made. And so I want to actually set up our office, like with phone banks and that type of thing, and not actually be in our physical office, but have our office where we're counting.
Gotcha.
So that I'm available both to the counters, but to the staff to solve problems at the polling locations. So that'll take some coordinating. I've just been trying to think of ideas of just different things when this was, brought to us, like, okay, what logistically would we need to do?
Right.
And a lot of them have to do with IT, so I know that I'll need to set up meetings with IT in order to have this all prepared, because we don't have a lot of time in
Right.
regards to the fact that November is when filing starts.
Yeah.
So everything needs to be, we need to have a plan in place before
Yeah.
filing starts.
Yes.
But these are just some of the things.
This is not a long-term solution. It's not a good long-term solution. So we need to be
know.
involved in any process for any new emergency operations building and voicing, what needs we have. And I don't know where that process is, or if we've been involved in any of it yet or consulted, but we
No,
sure
but
need-
I- but I
sure
think
need to
that-
be moving forward in order to have a long-term plan.
He mentioned the design is not yet in, motion or whatever. And so in the designing stages, that's where we need to be involved, I
So,
think.
because ideally, if they, building that emergency planning building, that building itself will have rooms for us to do poll worker training,
Mhm.
for meetings and for counting,
In theory,
in theory.
Yeah.
And that's,
we
and
just need to make sure that theory.
Right.
Exactly.
Because
He
So-
made a commitment,
because
right?
right now, like when we do poll worker training, I have to gather up all of our stuff,
Right,
and I have
yeah.
to take it over to the sheriff's annex, or I have to bring it in here, or
Yeah.
I have to set up in different places. So long-term, having a building that
Mm-hmm.
we can do poll worker training in, counting in, all of those type of things.
Open to the
is-
public.
Yes, yeah. And it's not that this building isn't open to the
Right,
public.
right.
It just has,
It-
you can't just walk in, you have to be buzzed in.
Well, not
There's a
just that, but
receptionist there.
facility-wise, it's not expansive. This is not.
Right, and the public would have to get used to us knowing
Yeah.
we're
So to
here.
me, this is dual track. We need to take one.
Good point.
If we don't have a say in the decisions made, that we have to move down to the road department temporarily, that's fine. That's one track, right? Planning for it.
Right.
Two is if there is a new building that's gonna be built down there, that we're involved in that process and we're getting exactly what we need
Yeah.
to be able to hold secure and fair and free
Well-
elections in the future, and being involved in that process.
Yes.
We need to be very involved and advocate for ourselves. in it.
Right, right. Well, and one of the things about that is, it is, since it's emergency management, that they are going to have, not just the security, but the ability to run an election without us having, if the electricity goes off or some kind of deal like that. It's gonna be that kind of a building, so.
And that's the same thing too with the road department. It actually has its
Oh,
own
it is.
generator
Okay.
as well.
Okay.
So that is one thing as well, that building would have its own power source as well.
Well, let us know what we need to do to be involved in that process with this new building.
For
You
the
know,
new building,
ask-
yes,
ask,
absolutely.
the chief of staff or whoever
Yeah.
about what.
Well, we just
what,
need-
the
We just
the
need to
steps
watch it at
are.
each stage of the development
I agree.
because,
I feel like if it is a thing that's gonna happen, then we
Yeah.
need to be involved
Yeah.
proactively.
right, I agree. Okay, so we've got these items that Jennifer has figured at this point are going to be necessary to make a smooth transition. And you want to go forward with some of, do you want to go through this list
Oh,
or
I just,
just for our,
yeah, I mean, like I said, being able to have our phones set up on election day,
Right.
wherever it is that we're counting,
and this is far from exhaustive.
yes. And so it's just a couple of things like, awnings, because right now when we do drop off, we can drop off underneath.
Oh,
So
yeah,
if it's raining, like it was at the sheriff's office, we were doing drop offs.
right,
Live streaming, the security cards. I want to visit with IT about setting up a shared folder with the county clerk.
yeah.
So that instead of emailing things to the clerk, that I can put it in that folder, and then the clerk.
Well, there's more
can-
security in that
Right.
as well.
And so there's just some different things in regards to that, but this is, like I said, just my first, since I've had this information, this is just my first run at, going through, the different procedures and different processes. that we'll need to do.
Okay. You need to get out of here, don't you? Okay, well, I mean, do we need to approve an expenditure here, or is this
No.
just looking at
This
it?
is just looking at it.
Okay,
And I think some of these moves, I mean, I think we're gonna have to have new office furniture. I'm hoping that the
Right.
insurance would pay for some of that
Right.
because of the water damage, and like our office furniture right now, I think if they take it apart to move it,
it
it
will
will
just,
not
yeah,
go
it'll
back
fall
together.
apart.
So there will be a list of expenditures that we have to make, and we'll have to divide those up. I'll have to work with the chief of staff on that,
Mhm.
whether insurance pays for it or if it has to come out of our budget.
Oh,
And then certainly these items, you know, whatever we don't purchase this year, we would obviously need to add them to our budget for next year in regards to setting up for the election. So I just need to start keeping a list of these different types of items that I know we'll need.
right. Just as a side note on equipment, are we good for next year?
Okay, so that will be a discussion I wanted to have too with the commission, kind of, I was waiting till after the election.
Okay,
The commission will, when we get into making decisions about polling places for next year, if we were to add any polling locations, we will need at a minimum 3 more express votes and 3 more poll books.
Okay.
If we were to add anything. We have money in our budget this year for the purchase of either poll books or
Oh,
express
okay.
votes or the DS200s, you know, from Benton County.
right. Oh, yeah.
We haven't spent that money yet, and so after the May election, we can then make those decisions on
Okay.
starting to look at polling places for 2024, and then that would determine kind of what equipment do we need to
Right.
purchase. And certainly if we open any additional polling locations, we would not have enough voting equipment for
Okay.
any additional site, but that's definitely a conversation for us.
We need to have that after the May election.
After the May election.
Okay.
Right now, it doesn't look like we'll have any elections for the remainder of the year. So, we'll, you know, discuss polling locations and, the move,
Okay,
basically.
okay. Next item, legislative update. Do you want to, are you getting close? I just don't want to make things hard on you.
No, I'm fine. Let's talk about,
Okay,
I've just got theories of meetings, you know, how long is effective to,
yeah,
anyway.
Yeah.
To be in a single meeting on a single topic.
right.
But no, I'd like to talk about the legislative update, but particularly, you know, the ones that are gonna have a real impact on us.
Right.
So a lot of the bills that were passed this year that will impact us, have to do with, accounting procedures and chain of custody. The big
Okay.
ones that I talked about, for the new procedures that we're doing for the May 9th election.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of those, we're already going to, implement. Then, in regards to, I've kind of the way I did the laws, I broke them down by, types. So when it comes into absentees, provisionals and ballots, there will be new, absentee voter applications that will have to be created that will be handled by the state board. And handling transfer of absentee ballots, that's something we've already kind of discussed previously that we'll be implementing for this election. And it just really has to do with who opened this box of ballots. It has to be 2 people.
Right.
How many ballots were in that, and then signing off on
You've
each
got
move.
signature cards on those
Exactly,
now.
each move it makes. And then, I'm trying to look at the ones, there
Did-
aren't any I felt that impacted voting in person, that
Oh,
our
okay.
voters in person will see. Mostly it is,
Did you have some?
procedures.
No, not necessarily. I was gonna say, I would like to look through this list a little bit, in a little more depth. There's a few that are still in flux, not yet signed by the governor. It looks like that according to this list.
Yes, that was last week.
Not that they're not gonna be, but they
Right.
just haven't
Right,
become law
right.
yet.
Yeah.
So I guess, I would like to look through this and then maybe.
Well, let's
talk
bring
through
it
a
up at
little
our
bit-
next
A
meeting.
little bit further,
Yeah.
at the next one.
Okay, let's do that. And then, by then, the ones that haven't been signed may have been signed, and we can know for sure.
And the SBEC has asked if we're holding a regional meeting to discuss the legislative update. And they would like to attend. They've always kind of, since we've been
Right,
doing that,
right.
then they go around the state and do them as well. They asked if we could possibly hold one in July.
Oh, that's what the July, the,
July
okay,
11th. I'm coordinating with the state board right now to make sure that they're all available. And so the state board would like to attend that meeting and participate as well.
okay.
And one of the things for us to hit the state board up when they come is training for commissioners, poll workers, election coordinators, and then also the reimbursement side. Right now, I think it's low, the dollar amount that they reimburse us for poll workers. I think we need to push for that to be higher.
Yeah.
And the reimbursement for programming, we've asked this for several
yeah,
years. They made
yeah.
a commitment to us once and then it
Died?
yes. So, there's some, things we need to push for when they set out to make the rules for
Right,
reimbursements.
right.
The main one is the reimbursement dollar amount for poll workers. And especially in light of the fact that right now they will only pay mileage for one
Oh, yeah.
supervisor. They're now going to have to pay mileage for two supervisors because now
You've got
two
the
poll
car to
workers
follow.
have to bring
Yeah.
back the material. So there's some
Yeah.
things in there that we'll need to, and they may have already thought of that, but I want to make sure that that's noted in the things that they
Right.
reimburse us for in regards to mileage and pay for our
Okay,
poll
good.
workers.
Good. Okay,
So if you'll look to see if July 11th would possibly work.
oh, that's what I was looking for.
And then I'll let you know if for some reason the state board can't meet, and then I'll get in touch with the other commissions from Northwest Arkansas.
Okay, that's a Tuesday.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. And we'd be calling that a regional meeting?
It would be a regional meeting down at the sheriff's annex.
Okay.
Okay.
Jim?
Everything on my calendar.
Okay. Let's nail it down now. So it's there. All right, so we will table these legislative items for the next meeting. You also have some stuff here on polling sites.
Yeah.
Oh, this is that info. All right, I'm tracking now.
Yeah, I provided, this is just mostly homework
Okay.
for the commission.
Yeah,
In regards to when we do start to discuss early vote sites, election day sites, this is just the basic information that I put together in regards to voter turnout.
okay,
The first page is by election day vote centers. The next one is the city by cities.
right.
And
Good.
then one is a voter turnout comparison, the percentages of people who vote early where, like, which locations are
Right.
they taking advantage of? And then the last sheet is early vote, and the cities, by
Okay,
cities,
good.
kind of where are they voting? What polling locations are they taking advantage of during
Yeah.
early vote?
Okay. Super.
So, but that's basically kind of the homework for the commission in regards to
Right.
when we do start to discuss.
Okay, so,
Polling locations.
question, do we need to name a date between now and Election Day? We've already had the visit with the judge. So, that item has been addressed.
Yes, for me, it has.
The only other, I would like us to hold a meeting, had a visit, with the judge in regards to the
Oh,
raises
right,
for
right.
for staff.
The one
And,
that we approved.
yes,
I'm trying to remember.
yes.
November.
Back in,
December.
Yes. And it should be on the JSEP, JSEP agenda, which is the 24th. I have a meeting with Patty on the 19th to go over the pay grades. Since this will be a little bit different than what the commission actually
Oh.
approved and discussed, I'd like to set up a meeting with the commission,
Before the
before the-
24th?
before the 24th,
24th of May,
of
April.
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 So, JSEP meets in the afternoon on the 24th at 3:30, so we could meet that morning on the 20,
Not available that morning.
Okay.
I'm out.
Okay.
or the 20th or the 21st, if one of those times work for you.
I'm good with either one of those,
Yeah, I am too.
And it doesn't have to be in the morning, it can be,
any time of the day.
Yeah, I could do either at least in the morning for sure, 20th or 21st. I could do either one.
Let's do the 20th,
Okay.
9 a.m.
Yep, perfect.
Okay. That gives you time to
yeah.
get your ducks in a row. Okay, and you guys know all these other dates that we've got listed.
None of those have changed, have they, Jennifer?
No, really, early vote starts May 2nd, so that's just right around the corner.
Yes, it is. Phew. Okay, any other business? Fellas, nothing? Okay.
Any members of the public?
Oh, gosh.
You wanna,
I'm not touching it. I don't know what to do, Jim.
hang on a second, it was number 20?
I think that's what
Can you hear me?
There,
Yes.
yeah.
I'm Jenny Flanagan, and I live here in Fayetteville. Thank you all for the work that you're doing. First of all, this is my first election commission meeting, so.
Welcome. Come back.
Yeah, oh, I will be back, yes. So I feel awful for you for all of this being dumped on you. The additional logistics are just insane. So kudos to you for handling this so well. As a member of the public, I would encourage you guys to push back on this plan. I know that flexibility is important. I know that you guys have to work with the county on this. But what I just heard from the county judge was all about what's really good for the building and what's good for the county management. It's not good for the constituents. It is not okay. I work in trying to educate people to get to the ballot box and actually vote. I can tell you the statistics are bleak to begin with here in Arkansas. We only had 48% of registered voters show up in our last election. We're working tirelessly to try to get people to show up. Every step that we put that makes it harder for them to have access and to have trust in this process is not good for our democracy. It is not. So I really appreciate you bringing up your concerns. I have those same concerns, even after hearing what the county judge said. I 100% respect him and the position he's in. But I also, when I worked in corporate, my job was to find a solution. There is always a solution, and it's usually not the first one that's presented. So I would really encourage all of you to push back. You had a nudge that was not right. It's not right. So as a constituent, please, please push back on this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny, good points. Appreciate you talking.
Thank you, and wow, she said it much better than I can, but I
State
just
your name.
I'm sorry, Beth Coger, Fayetteville, Arkansas.
JP.
Forgive me for that. what I've heard today is that it's going to be a big problem for y'all to move. And I know just for the general public, and I don't know if, Jennifer, if you want to do this, but, I mean, don't you work, I mean, the work that you work in hand with the county clerk. I mean, I don't know of any two divisions that work closer than the election commission and the county clerk. Isn't that true? I mean,
I think so. I would agree with that.
so for y'all to be separated, it seems like that just doesn't make sense. I'm going to say that it makes more sense the IT department should move to the road department than the election commission. But so someone said something about you don't want to be confrontational, and I know that's uncomfortable. I don't like being confrontational. But standing up for what's best for the Washington County elections and for the public to have access to election commission and to the voting process, that's not being confrontational. That is what you're supposed to do. And y'all have more power than I think that you're recognizing that you have. What I heard from you today, from this election commission, is you all are willing to work with the county, you're willing to compromise. And I think that what Max brought forward about waiting until after this, well, first of all, this EOC building is just a pie in the sky right now. We only voted in Finance and Budget last week. It's got to be approved by the full form court, and that's just for the architect and engineering fees. I asked the county judge in that meeting if he had any idea about what the cost would be, and he did not. So that's a long way from being finished, but I don't think you're being unreasonable when you ask that you wait to be moved to see how that goes. What I saw from you is a willingness to compromise and work with the county. What I heard from the county judge is an unwillingness to compromise. He seems set in that position, and I don't know, I think, I'm just gonna emphasize what Jenny said, that y'all need to push back about that. I don't know of anything that's more important than our elections, right, and having access to that. And I know that Jennifer will make it work, like someone said, she's gonna make it work, but they're putting a lot of burdens on you all that you don't need and that I think are necessary. Let me see what I had another point. Anyway, if you don't think it's best, I just ask that you push back and you stand up for all the people of Washington County and for the election process in Washington County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the additional information feedback.
Yeah.
On, status of any emergency operations building and where that process is.
Well, the process is just beginning, and it's just, we have nothing. And I know it's supposed to be finished by December 31st of 2026 in order for ARPA funds, for the American Rescue Plan Act money to be used. I don't know how that's gonna happen, but that's a long way off. And like I say, your request to wait was very reasonable. The judge's unwillingness to compromise is not reasonable.
Thank you. Okay, any other business? Are we good? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all.